This story is of a young lady named Bryn, who used to reside alone in her home. Her home is outside the town. After Bryn's mom's passing, she had nobody in this world. So she used to live alone. Her mom had a fantasy about making a model of the town, which Bryn needed to satisfy now. She had made the whole model of her town, which she continued to fix with time, and furthermore rolled out certain improvements. Bryn used to sew garments to earn enough to pay the rent. At some point, in the wake of sewing the garments, at the point when she planned to give them, she sees an unusual circle made external her home, which she attempts to eliminate with water, however she can't. Presently she drives the vehicle and goes towards the town. On the way, she meets a kid whom she used to like. However, when she stops the vehicle and checks him out, the kid had left from that point. Here we come to know that individuals of the town could have done without Bryn by any means. That is the reason her home was outside the town. What was the explanation that we will come to know later? Bryn would have rather not come here, however, she was defenseless to go to the town, since her mom was covered in the burial ground here. That is the reason she goes to her mom's grave like clockwork. At the point when she went there, there were likewise many individuals there. At the point when Bryn expresses hello to them, nobody responds to her. Everybody was disregarding her. That implies nobody focuses on her. Presently coming, she sees her cherished companion, Maud's folks, whom she conceals subsequent to seeing. Here obviously it was taboo for her to come to the town. Bryn herself would have rather not lived alone. It was her powerlessness, as a matter of fact. Presently she returns home, what's more, composes a letter to her lifelong companion Maud. Then a mailman comes to her home, who came to give me a container, in which there was a little school that she had requested for her town's model. She is satisfied to keep the school in her model. Similarly, while snickering and playing, she likewise finishes her letter. She was keeping in touch with Maud, in which she composes, "Maud, I realize I will always be unable to excuse myself. Furthermore, I miss you constantly." There were likewise pictures of Maud in her home, which were exclusive to her life as a youngster. Or on the other hand, did Maud head off to someplace? What was the mystery of Maud? Presently we will learn about this later. One evening, when Bryn is dozing, then, at that point, abruptly every one of the lights in her home turned on. Yet, Bryn was all the while resting. Sooner or later, every one of the lights was additionally switched off. Then a sound of something tumbling from outside comes. Hearing the sound, Bryn awakened. That sound was really a dustbin tumbling from outside. At the point when Bryn turns on the light to proceed to fix it, then what is this? No light in her home turns on. At the point when she descends, she sees that the entryway of her home is open. Furthermore, an unusual animal was wandering in her home. At the point when Bryn takes note, she figures out that it's anything but an animal, however, an outsider. It additionally saw Bryn, so presently he comes up following her. Bryn immediately got away in her room at the bedside. At the point when the outsider arrives at Bryn's room, she goes down under the bed and stows away. She saw the feet of the outsider close by, which were exceptionally weird. Yet, when the outsider doesn't track down anybody, he emerges from the window. Presently Bryn rapidly shuts the window. Then, at that point, she feels that the outsider is strolling on her rooftop. So presently she rapidly goes down and shuts her entryway. Then every one of the lights in her home turned on and off rapidly. Every one of the electronic gadgets was likewise dealing with their own. Seeing this, Bryn calls the police. In any case, her telephone was not working. The telephone was likewise in a similar condition as her cooler. The outsider was controlling everything. As a matter of fact, Bryn gets frightened and sits in the corner. Then, at that point, the outsider approaches her. Here Bryn saw the essence of the outsider cautiously. Seeing this, she gets terrified. She pushes the outsider and rushes to her room. Then unexpectedly there is a chute in the entryway of the house, which got Bryn. This was likewise finished by the outsider. He was controlling everything in his home without contacting it. Presently when Bryn was going towards the model of the town, then the outsider likewise drops that table. Then, at that point, the wrecked wood of the table comes in Bryn's grasp. Here when the outsider was attempting to get Bryn, then Bryn hits that piece of wood in the top of the outsider. Because of this, the outsider passed on there. Seeing this, Bryn gets exceptionally terrified. What's more, goes through the entire evening sitting before the outsider's cadaver. In the first part of the day, Bryn covers the outsider's body. What's more, she additionally calls the police. However, her telephone was dead. Alongside the telephone, every one of the electronic gadgets in the house were additionally harmed. This implies that this occurred due to the passing of that outsider, since he was controlling everything. Seeing this, Bryn begins going from here. Yet, her vehicle was likewise dead. Presently she figures what she ought to do. Then her eyes go to her head, from where the blood was streaming. Presently she goes to rapidly scrub down. Also, preparing, she places a couch before her entry and closes it. As a matter of fact, the previous evening while at the same time battling with the outsider had impacted its entryway. She put it on the couch, however it was of no utilization. In any case, presently she takes a cycle and goes towards the town, where she sees the mailman's van. He was likewise in a terrible condition. Indeed, even the kid who preferred Bryn, his home was additionally obliterated. Also, outside his home, there was the very same circle, as we saw outside Bryn's home toward the beginning of the story. After this, she rapidly goes to the police headquarters, where Maud's folks were. Maud's mom spits all over. Seeing this, you probably speculated that Maud's family couldn't stand her to such an extent. Bryn had figured out that she wouldn't get any assistance from the town. That is the reason she returns to her home crying. However, she was becoming ill-coming. There is nobody to deal with her. Bryn comprehended that she had nobody around here. What's more, her home was obliterated by the outsider's assault. That is the reason when she sees the transport passing before her, she had chosen to go from here. She will leave this town and go for eternity. Really, at that time we can see that before every one of the places of the town, there was a similar round circle that we saw outside Bryn's home toward the beginning of the story. It implies that the outsider planned to go after here as well. That circle was made by the outsiders. Then the mailman assaults Bryn sitting on the transport. As a matter of fact, he was in the control of the outsider. There was something in his neck, by which the outsider had assumed control over people. The outsider didn't believe that anybody should leave this town. That is the reason the mailman was likewise halting Bryn. There were a lot more individuals on that transport. Who was in the control of the outsiders? Presently Bryn takes off from them and comes to a congregation. In any case, the entryway there was shut. She sees a cemetery close by. Presently she goes to a grave inside it, which was of Maud. That is, her lifelong companion was dead, who passed on due to Bryn's misstep. Furthermore, that is the reason everybody in the town couldn't stand her, particularly Maud's folks. One part of the story was clear. Maud was dead. Furthermore, the explanation was Bryn herself. That is the reason she held composition to her companion to excuse her. She is exceptionally embarrassed. At the point when Bryn's eyes go to the sky and she sees, there are dark mists all over the place. There were a ton of outsider spaceships overhead. At the point when she takes off from that point in dread, she goes to the kid's home, whom she preferred. There were a lot more individuals there, who were all remaining with their hands up towards the sky. There was exactly the same thing in their necks, which we found in the neck of the mailman. This implies that outsiders had caught them as well. At the point when Bryn contacts her home, she sees the body of that outsider was all the while lying there, the one whom she finished. An odd fluid was emerging from his mouth. At the point when she gazes upward once more, there were dark mists all over. Bryn had perceived that the outsiders planned to go after once more. That is the reason, as opposed to being apprehensive, she prepares to battle the outsiders. She goes inside the house and gets a lighter. Furthermore, a shaper likewise, and puts the water on the oven to bubble. Then she shuts every one of the windows and entryways. She covers the wrecked entryway of her home with a sheet of nails. Sooner or later, the nails that she puts inside drop out naturally. Since now the outsiders had come here, they, most importantly, pull the cadaver of their sidekick outsider, whom Bryn had finished. Seeing this, Bryn goes to the cellar of the house and stows away. Then another outsider goes into her home. He had come to the cellar. She needed to end the outsider by getting some scissors. However, the power inside him, he could pull everything towards him. That is the reason he additionally pulls scissors. The image of Maud and her that she was having in her grasp was likewise pulled by the outsider. Furthermore, he is taking a gander at her cautiously. Exploiting this, Bryn took off from that point. Also, returns up. Then she sees a little outsider up there. He was little, however his hands were extremely lengthy. He was attempting to get Bryn with his hands. Bryn gets him out of there. Also, the bubbling water that she had kept, she puts it on that little outsider. However, nothing happened to that outsider. Presently Bryn was concealing in her restroom. Yet, that outsider was so quick. He likewise tears the washroom entryway with his own hands. That is the reason Bryn presently attempts to take off through the window. Rapidly, the outsider had gotten his legs. Bryn gets the brush and beats that outsider. During the battle, the broomstick likewise breaks. Presently Bryn hits that wrecked stick in the shoulder of that outsider. She had draped him from the pantry. Then she hits him with the entryway of the cabinet on his head. After such a lot of exertion, she at last finished that outsider. At the point when Bryn emerges, another outsider is sitting tight for her, whose arms and legs were additionally extremely lengthy. Here Bryn sees nothing. That is the reason the mailman digs out from a deficit, also takes her with him. Who was still heavily influenced by the outsiders? The outsider external calls his friends here with a sign. The outsider's spaceship had shown up there, who currently needed to take Bryn with them, since she was finishing their sidekicks. That is the point at which the white light descends from the spaceship. So towards that light, Bryn pushes the mailman. In any case, sooner or later, he returns to the ground and falls. Here the importance was clear. Those outsiders had simply come to take Bryn here. The long-legged outsider was additionally behind Bryn. He hops on top of her home. That is when Bryn immediately went into her vehicle and stowed away. Be that as it may, the outsider had likewise come there. Bryn emerges from the vehicle rapidly. Furthermore, she secures that outsider in the vehicle. She leaves a consuming lighter on it. Because of this, there is an exceptionally huge impact in the vehicle. That outsider likewise kicked the bucket because of the impact. Yet at the same time, the white light emerging from the outsider's spaceship was following Bryn. She comes running into her home. That is the point at which she views as one more outsider inside. Who had come behind her in the storm cellar prior? Rather than finishing her, he was seeing her image cautiously. That is when Bryn from behind considers going after that outsider. In any case, the outsider had looked into it. That is the reason he goes after Bryn and discards her. Furthermore, presently a red light comes inside Bryn's home, which had frozen her. That implies she was frozen there. Presently the outsider comes to her. What's more, takes out something bizarre from his mouth. As a matter of fact, it worked like a parasite. It was a weapon of these outsiders, which he places in her mouth. Along these lines, he could likewise control Bryn like others. That implies every individual who was in the control of the outsiders, this parasite was in their throat. That is when Bryn awakens. It seemed as though she had awakened from a fantasy. In reality, now that the parasite had ruled Bryn's body, it had totally assumed command over her brain. It had caught Bryn in her fantasy land, where she will consume her time on Earth with her town world and Maud. At the point when she sees Maud before her, she is sorry to her. She excuses her. That is when Bryn comprehends that this is only a fantasy of hers. Truly, her companion Maud is dead. That is the reason she places her hand on her throat, also takes out the parasite, which the outsider had placed in her throat. When she did this, she came to her genuine world. Presently when she drops the parasite on the ground, orange light falls on it from a higher place, from which the parasite was getting another body, which was of Bryn. There were numerous spaceships of outsiders overhead. Everybody was taking care of their business. Here we find out about the lights emerging from those spaceships. White light was to pull people up, red to freeze, while orange was to make another body. Presently the outsider Bryn was produced using that parasite. It goes after the genuine Bryn with a blade, from which she tumbles down. And afterwards, the white light took her up in the spaceship, where there were many outsiders. By putting a finger at the forefront of her thoughts, they needed to know her recollections. This additionally lets us know what has been going on with her in her previous lifestyle. For what reason did the entire town can't stand her? Furthermore, how did her companion pass on? So it occurred in such a manner. Bryn and Maud had a battle in her life as a youngster. Maud pushes Bryn. Consequently, Bryn got a stone and hit Maud. What's more, she kicked the bucket on the spot. Huge Bryn used to decline to compose a letter to little Bryn in her viewpoint, so she can continue on in her life. She doesn't recollect old recollections. Subsequent to knowing it all, the outsiders choose that they will send Bryn back to her reality. That is the reason they toss her down once more. She was feeling great returning. She failed to remember her miserable recollections. What's more, battled the outsiders. We see Bryn carrying on with her life joyfully. The entire town currently converses with her pleasantly. The kid she used to like was additionally fine with her now. She is moving in a party. There was likewise a kid with her. Bryn's life was precisely as she needed. The outsider spaceships were all the while flying overhead. It is conceivable that the outsiders actually have command over the entire town. What's more, in the wake of knowing Bryn's recollections, they fixed everything as indicated by her. Since Bryn was the one in particular who battled those outsiders. So here, according to the name of the film, the story is likewise clear. Nobody will save you. You need to help yourself. Nobody had saved Bryn. Nobody in the town helped her. She battled the difficulties herself. Furthermore, the narrative of this film additionally finishes here.